I'm Danny, that witch next door, and you're listening to That Witch Podcast. Well. Hello, neighbor. How the fuck are you today? Wow, oh wow. It's really been the trek, y'all. It has been a fucking trek. Hey, by the way, if you're new around here, or if this is your first time on That Witch Podcast, hello and welcome. I'm Danny, as you heard at the top of the show. I am That Witch Next Door. If it's just been a little while since you've dropped into the neighborhood, hi and welcome back. I'm so glad that you dropped by. I have a fuck ton to catch everybody up on. Honestly, so much of my life has changed in just a handful of weeks that there was just absolutely no way I could go back and just pick up regular content where I last left off without sharing everything with you. It just didn't feel right. I needed to bridge the gap because leaving what's been your childhood and your only home, really, for your entire life and moving 2,000 miles away and starting over fresh with your family. You're going to be a little different on the other side. There's a gap there. There's a disconnect here. So we needed an episode for it. We definitely needed an episode to share with the neighborhood what this journey has looked like, what it's felt like, and the why behind all of it. Because I know how much sharing this stuff and just being transparent about it helps so many people. It certainly has always helped people like me because it helps me make my dreams and things that I envision for myself a reality. It also helps me feel really normal and not like a broken person. I honestly don't really know where to even begin, but I do know that I want to share this huge journey of moving out of state. So honestly, we are just going to dive right in. Deep down in my bone of bones, in this life, in this incarnation, I always wanted to move out of state. I have always romanticized this idea. And whether it's like, it doesn't matter if it was, just on my own or with my partner, or with my family, I knew at the core of myself, I never intended on staying in Colorado my whole life. And, you can call it the 90s girl in me, or maybe it's like the literature escapist. But my heart at its core is truly a hopeless romantic. And I have always, since I was a very young child, I have always longed for my Renaissance era. You know what the Renaissance era is, right? Let me paint a picture for you. Starting over as the new kid in town, bought the old Miller house down the road, a place no one else has dared touch. Puts on old records, sloppy clothes, and pot after pot of coffee to power through the scrubbing, polishing, painting, and everything else it takes to bring this old house back to life. Finding themselves along the way. You know what I mean? That's the Renaissance era. That's the vibe that I'm talking about. It's this concept, it's this idea, this vibe that I've always, well, again, the best word for it is romanticized, and I've totally fantasized about it. The vibe itself looks and feels a little bit different to everybody, but hopefully with my cheesy ass example, you know what I'm trying to talk about. That's the Renaissance era, and it's here. This thing that I've longed for so long, it's here, and I have it. And maybe it's not as literally story-esque as the picture I've just painted here for all of you. But inside, like, it really does feel that way to me. Like my inner child, my inner teenager, my inner young adult, I mean, fuck, honestly, every past version of myself like squeals with joy multiple times a day since we've been here, because there's just so much newness to explore. There's so much new life to create here. Everything, every single day is such a blank canvas, which can be plenty difficult, but we'll get there. Let's start at the beginning. How did all of this happen? How did my family and I even get here? How did we accomplish this? And why? Why the fuck did we even want to do this in the first place? I mentioned this a few episodes ago, when I let everybody know that I was physically about to move, which it's something that's been in the process for a while, which I'll explain, but it also had a little bit of a last minute vibe to it. So I'll walk y'all through that. But for a very, very long time, years and years and years ago, at the very beginning of mine and my husband's relationship, when we first started dating, we have always wanted to move out of state. We talked very serious about that and started making serious plans for that very early on. And then when we decided to try and have a baby, I changed my mind and I wanted to stay in Colorado while our family was so fresh and so new, and particularly while I was such a new mom. And I'm really, really glad I made that decision and decided to pause this one for that, because that's how I set myself up for greater success now, to be the kind of mom necessary to help support my child through this huge major life transition. So we had our daughter in 2018. This is about 6 years into our relationship. And like I said, I really am glad that we stayed here for a while, and when we did, because our family and our close friends, they were all able to create such special and genuine relationships with Blair, with our daughter. And they were able to build this beautiful foundation of love and support for her that she now has. And she's had that since she literally came into this world. She's been loved and valued by so many people. And again, I think that set her up and probably set all of us up for even more success now that we're here. So we tabled the out-of-state thing for a really long time. It felt like a really long time. And we didn't even talk about it for years. Now, 2020 changed everything, as you all know and are very aware. And so, just like all of you, the beginning of 2021, everything was different. So different. We were different. Everyone around us was different. And honestly, can I just say, isn't it so crazy to try and think about, like, think for a second if the pandemic had never happened and what 2020 may have looked like and what the beginning of 2021 may have looked like had we all in our world continued on our quote normal trajectory. It's so weird, but that's, the truth is what happened is everything changed permanently. And the beginning of 2021, my Mars return was in March of 2021. And that was like my buy a boat or cut my bangs moment. That was like, I was at that point where change wasn't just something I wanted. It had become a necessity to live. I really don't know how else to describe it. And within a handful of months, I made a series of major life decisions. And among those included moving out of state is when we officially made the decision. What happened was I was working at my former shop and I was catching up with a friend and a consignor of ours at the time. And she had some big news and a big update for me and told me that she was going to be moving to New England in a few months. And at that moment, something in me switched or turned on or lit up. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it was instantaneous and it was tangible. And later that night, I very nervously brought it up to Jared, and I kind of somewhat blurt out, just out of left field, I think we should move out of state. We should think about doing that again. And I think it should be New England. There's not really a subtle way to bring that up. It was pretty funny. Now, keep in mind, for context, my husband had never really not wanted to move out of state. That had probably been a green light in his book the whole entire time, since we had tabled it even. I think that he would agree with me looking back. Yeah, I'm glad that we stayed here when we did, and Blair was able to have those first 4.5 years of her life here. Like, again, it was definitely fundamental to the overall journey. But I think it was more of a green light for him than me. And I was more of the one who pumped the brakes. And so it was funny, even though I was nervous bringing it up to him, he didn't even hesitate at all. Which was hilarious. I wasn't sure what he'd think of the location, because I will also admit, hadn't it been rather random of me to just land on New England after I had this one conversation? And don't get me wrong, that wasn't my only run-in with the New England region. It's an area that I've always found really, really fascinating and intriguing, but I truly had never considered moving there, not on purpose, but it just had never crossed my mind. I considered other countries, again, Pacific Northwest. I'd considered just moving a state or two over, just to get out of Dodge for a couple of years when I was a lot younger. But I had never considered or thought of, again, hadn't even crossed my mind, New England. And so it felt kind of random. And I was a little bit nervous bringing it up to him. But like I said, he didn't even hesitate. And he agreed with me, okay, yeah, I'm ready to move too. And he has a Sagittarius Venus. So he's more, and Aries moon and Aries rising, he's very adventurous. And he's got his Libra stellium. He's super down to try new things and new places. And when it came to moving somewhere else, again, that's one of the things I love about fireplaces, quite honestly, is they're just fuck yes, where do you want to go? And so, yeah, over the next several weeks from that night on, we began a deep dive into researching the New England region. I want to take a quick moment, though, and I want to pause the actual story here. And I want to talk about this part for a minute. Because sometimes over the last couple of years, I've found myself questioning the circumstances around our why New England or why New Hampshire. Our reasoning wasn't deep enough, wasn't meaningful enough. We don't have any family in this area, and neither of our families are from the area. It's not like I had some special dream about it. This information and message didn't come to me during meditation. And quite honestly, on the flip side of meaningful, it wasn't necessarily a logical decision either. The truth is I had been speaking with a person who said they were moving to the area, and I knew that's where I wanted to be. How lame is that? Or how crazy is that? Am I being completely unoriginal? Am I being totally irrational? And especially when having to answer that question that we, of course, rightfully so, keep getting asked over and over again, why New England? These are the thoughts that would swirl around in my head afterward for a really, really long time. It was like this throughout this journey. What I've realized, though, is that the truth, the very, very just simple truth here, is that I knew. Deeper than deep down inside of myself. I knew. I knew in that tangible moment when that fucking switch went off. I knew it was time for us to move. I knew that New England was the place that I wanted to be. And I trusted the knowing. After so many years, you have to understand at this point, I'm helping running my own shop. I'm teaching classes. Some of my earliest clients, I didn't even realize they were mentoring clients because they were students that came to classes or tarot clients. But what I was doing was I was mentoring them, just like I mentor people now as that witch next door. I had been preaching for so long. I'd been practicing for so long. Years of learning my unique intuitive language, years of forming a bond with my intuition. You have to understand that by that point in my life, it would have been flat out opposite of my nature to question and ignore my intuition. I had trained myself up until that point to wholly trust in it. And that's what I was doing. That's my why. New England, my how did we end up landing on moving Colorado in the first place and moving to New England, New Hampshire? That's why. I was wholly trusting in my intuition, and it's what I continue to do in every single area of my life. It's what I teach about, it's what I talk about with others in my work. And honestly, if there's one fucking thing in this entire world that I had learned up until that point, and I definitely still know this to be true now, it's that true intuition. You've probably heard me say this on the show. True intuition is never wrong. Never. If it was wrong, then it wasn't really your intuition that you were listening to. It was some other part of yourself. Shadow, projection of fear, scarcity, and insecurity. And so, sure, maybe we are crazy, and maybe the way in which we, quote, chose New England was irrational, especially from the outside looking in. But brick by fucking brick, I have personally built a life that I actually love living every single day by trusting my intuition, by getting clear on what feels aligned, getting clear on what doesn't feel aligned, and allowing myself to move within those boundaries. I have proven the results of this to myself every single day. And I am sure as fuck not about to just stop trusting it now. All right, so back to the story. We land on New England, okay? So I come home, I tell him all this. We land on New England. I get my husband on board. We start researching the entire region to narrow down where we'd like to live. And honestly, this is one of those times where I just absolutely adore being married to such an air sign, particularly a Libra, because thorough research is not just something that comes naturally. It's a way of life. It's a lovely way to spend time on a Friday night around here. We end up researching our little hearts out, both of us having preferences, having boundaries that we both have to bear in mind for one another and for ourselves as we're, researching and exploring different areas to live. And I don't know, I'm not sure that either of us were expecting this. I'm pretty sure that both of us had our eyes on different states in the New England area. But after all of our time and research spent, it ended up that New Hampshire checked the most boxes on both of our lists. We've always said, keep in mind, we've always said since those earliest nights of doing research that honestly, if we don't enjoy somewhere that we've moved or we really hate it or it's just a bad fit, then we'll move on and we'll try another place. So keep in mind that part of the reason our research, and I think a lot of our plans have gone as smoothly as they have this entire time, is we don't force ourselves into any kind of like permanent thinking. And we remind ourselves like, hey, we can put all of our work and time and efforts and energy into this big move. And it's okay if it ends up not being what we expected and we adapt along the way. Like that mindset will serve you quite well in ginormous endeavors like this. But no matter what, the bottom line for us by that point was that staying in Colorado was not an option anymore. Believe you me, there would be many opportunities in the months to come for us to change our minds, and for us to back out, for us to say that we wanted to stay, but we never did. The desire and the drive only became stronger as time went on. Now, challenges have been aplenty, okay, throughout this entire journey. Make no mistake about that. When I talk about how aligned everything is, please do not interchange that with the term easy, because easy it has been not. It's been very difficult in a fuck ton of ways. And if you live near or where you grew up, like if you come from a similar situation as us, where you lived around your friends and your family that you've been with your whole entire life, I want you to imagine telling them that you're going to move over 2,000 miles away from them. Oh, and by the way, you have to tell them that not because you have to, not for a job, not for some great romantic love story, not some life or death situation, but because you want to. Imagine you have the only grandchild for both your and your partner's parents. Imagine that your house is the main hub where friends gather multiple times a year. People that haven't seen each other in months or all year long. Your home, your parties a couple times a year are where everybody reunites and does that together. You're within 30 minutes of most everyone that you love. Imagine being surrounded by reasons to stay and still wanting to leave. Still knowing deep down inside yourself that it's time to leave. And now imagine having to tell all those people. The last couple of years have been interesting, to say the goddamn least. It's been just over 2 years, actually, almost exactly, since we made the official decision to leave. And it's probably been just under 2 years then, since we had officially told everyone what our years were. We told our closest friends and family early on because we wanted to be honest and spend time with people, which I'm so glad that we did, because we were able to take trips with people. I mean, there's so much about deciding early, doing this the right and not impulsive way, being patient and doing this over a couple of years. Because honestly, even a couple of years was having to kind of do it on a hard timeline. When you make a decision like that and truly commit every choice to it thereafter, which, by the way, that in and of itself, that's a huge part of what manifestation is it's making the decision and then making choices that are aligned with that or committed to that decision. But that's a different episode. When you do that, well, you can find yourself in a very weird little limbo, my friend. And depending on how long it takes to reach that decision and reach that accomplishment, that little limbo might just turn into a much longer stretch of time than you were ever expecting. So for us, things moved in stages. The initial stage was the first shock wave, where everyone's emotions sort of surfaced. Whether that was being excited for us, being sad, being mad at us, maybe a combination of lots of big feelings. And as you know, I don't judge feelings and emotions around here. I just identify them. So there's no judgment on my behalf about my emotions I experienced or other people's emotions that they experienced around me. After that first stage, when things kind of subsided into the next stage that lasted a little while, that was more of a phase where I think most people were either thinking or hoping we would change our minds as time went on. And we didn't change our minds. And as time was moving forward, we were also moving forward with all of our plans and our preparations. So things would get real, and that would kind of usher in the next stage of emotions surfacing again. Now, throughout this entire process, I really do have to say, Jared and I really have done our very best to hold space for all the feelings, for our feelings, for the emotions of others. And I personally really do think that we did this with relative success. It's subjective, but I do think that we did our best and accomplished what we were trying to do. And I certainly can't and won't speak for anyone other than myself, of course. But especially now that we're on the other side, I really can say how damn proud I am that we didn't duck around questions. We didn't avoid other people's opinions. We didn't hide our opinion. We didn't shame anyone for their feelings or thoughts about what we were doing. Hard conversations had to happen. Sure. Of course, quite honestly. And I also believe those were honest conversations that were better off having been had. As you can imagine, this has not and was not easy with our families, with our parents in particular. And as a mom, as a parent, I can empathize with that experience now more than ever before in my life. And as the kid in this situation, it would have been really, really easy to try to run away from that and try to make this about just sweeping all of the feelings under the rug and not having any of the hard conversations and just kind of escaping in the middle of the night. I'll be totally blunt here. Disappointing my parents, yes, is hard for me. Especially I'm an approval based person. I'm a praise based person. Don't get me wrong, words of affirmation, but truly what's way harder for me is making my parents sad. Um, Making anybody sad, quite honestly. And I've always been that way. Scorpio sun, Scorpio Venus, Scorpio Mercury, plus Pisces moon, all that water in my personal planets. Yeah, it's pretty safe to say that in this life, I have a lot of lessons around who's supposed to take responsibility for whose feelings. But I did it. I'm really proud of myself. I did it. The sad happened. The tears happened. The hugs and the goodbyes. And my fucking damn if it isn't so beautiful on the other side. This may have been one of the greatest teaching moments of this entire thing for me so far, actually, is this experience of being shown firsthand why it's so important not to run away from those difficult emotional experiences. Learning that there really is enough space. There really is enough room for all of the feelings, and they won't destroy you either. This might sound obvious to some people, might sound simple to some people, but this really, truly has been absolutely revolutionary for me. My little family and I, we are loved. Very, very loved by a lot of people. I personally am blessed with such an extensive network of friends in Colorado, many of them from all the jobs I've had over the years, and especially from the local Denver metaphysical community. My world in my 20s grew to be so much larger than I ever could have expected growing up. For a long time, that world had a lot of people in it that had no place being in it, quite honestly. But especially over the last few years, as my life has flowed more and more into alignment, the people that I have surrounded myself with or got even closer with became more and more special to me. I have so many people that I love, and so many of them that I wanted to spend every possible moment with them. I could have made it a full-time job. I could have dedicated every single waking hour that I possibly could have to spending time with people that I love before I left. And I know I still would have felt like it was never enough. You get to a point during this kind of thing that you have no choice but to surrender to the limits of time. It really does come down to just that. How many hours are in a day? You still have to keep living your life. You still have responsibilities. You have things to do. You have people that count on you and depend on you. Hell, we were preparing to move 2,000 miles away. There was so much. There was always so much that we were supposed to be doing on top of wanting to spend every possible waking moment with a person we had to say goodbye to. And especially because our limbo phase was so up in the air, keep in mind, we never knew if we'd be waiting 1 month or 6 months for Jared to receive a job offer or for us to find a place to live. So when he did get an offer with an official start date that was 3.5 weeks away, it meant that we had to leave in less than 2 weeks all of a sudden. So yes, we had been planning for all these years. We had been waiting for that moment for a really long time, but we were also totally blind beforehand. We had no clue when that moment was going to come. And we had to just be fully ready for it when it did. We didn't have any other choice. That meant I could either fight it or accept it. There physically was never going to be, quote unquote, enough time with everyone. Now, quite shockingly, this might come as a big surprise, sure as fuck was to me, our over 2,000 mile drive out here to New Hampshire was actually probably the smallest part of this story, which is amazing. The truth is, it was just so much smoother than we ever could have expected. It was amazing. And I loved how many of you were keeping up with the journey on Instagram. It was so fun. Every time I would update when we were in a new state, I had so many neighbors popping in saying, "Hi, you're in my state, neighbor. Hey, welcome to Illinois. Welcome to Indiana." It was so sweet. Oh my God. So that was amazing that everybody came on the journey with me. I absolutely loved every moment of that. Now, of course, all the usual road trip shit happened. Please do not think we had a problem-free trip. I just mean that we didn't have our cars didn't break down. It was nothing like that at all. But of course, there was plenty to get frustrated with. When I look back on the experience, yeah, there was plenty of opportunity for impatience and stress. But at the end of the day, literally, we made it to our destination at the end of each night. We made it to our ultimate destination here, to our little apartment in New Hampshire. We're safe, we're healthy, we're together. And the gratitude for those kinds of things absolutely overflows you when you're navigating this much change all at once. That's enough, trust me. It's easy to not get nitpicky about the 3-day drive when you make it, and you make it in one piece, and you're healthy, and you're together, and you're here. Now, here we are. We're in our temporary little space. We are really close to where our new house is going to be. We're just about 20, 30 minutes north of where that will be. We get to officially close on our new house sale or purchase. We're the purchasers, obviously, in this case. We get to officially close on our house purchase right after the summer solstice, like literally that weekend after the summer solstice. It's actually 4 months to the day that we moved out of our house and into my in-laws. I looked at the calendar, which is fucking crazy. I cannot believe it. We're in like this really small little 1-bed almost condo is what I call it. And the only reason I say almost is I just wouldn't classify the kitchen as like a full apartment kitchen, but it is a step above a kitchenette, I would say. It's not like a hotel kitchen, but it's also definitely not a full kitchen you'd find in most apartments. I won't even deal with raw meat in here because there's that little of counter space that it does not make dealing with the raw meat hassle even remotely worth it. It's pretty cramped in here with all of us. Our dog is not small, and not only big dog, big husband, very tall husband, 4 almost 5-year-old is big energy. So we're definitely a little bit cramped in here. But honestly, I kind of love that we're in our 1-bedroom apartment phase, that we're in our 1-bedroom apartment chapter that we'll look back on and talk about with each other and tell future friends or generations to come, about our 1-bedroom apartment stage, because this is perfect for what we need. And it'll only be about a total of 6 weeks that we actually even have to live here. We are very blessed with how smooth the house purchase process was able to go once Jared received a job offer. We're really, really, really blessed. But I know that being here in this little tiny space is putting us in such a beautiful mindset to receive the abundance of our new, bigger space. So now that we're here, now that I'm officially in my first days of my Renaissance era, I'm rebuilding all my routines from complete scratch. It feels fucking amazing. New Hampshire Danny is aware of her workaholic patterns and remembers to practice the same grace with herself that she teaches her clients and neighbors. And I love Colorado Danny. I always, always will. And Colorado Danny worked her fucking ass off so that New Hampshire Danny could thrive. And I have vowed to myself, like, I will not dishonor such divine opportunity for rebirth by endlessly chasing familiarity and comfort. Major life transitions like moving and new careers or like changing major relationships, these serve as really big in your face reminders, and they make it easy. I'm privileged in a lot of ways right now. From moving, I'm already aware of my privilege prior to this, but moving, I'm very privileged with this big reminder every single day. Oh yeah, we've got a blank canvas here. Oh yeah, let's be intentional. Let's not sink into familiarity. But the truth is, you don't need a major life transition to tap into that way of thinking and to tap into that way of living. I want to remind you, if there's anything that I've realized so much on the other side of this, I'm like, Danny, a lot of these changes that you're making, a lot of this, like these really intentional moves that you're making now that you're here building your routines from scratch, you could have already done this. You really could have. Had you really shifted your mindset into just seeing that you could trigger your Renaissance era whenever the fuck you wanted, I would have. It would have triggered it. I would have been in my Renaissance era. You don't have to have. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned is I didn't have to romanticize it in the way that it was so far away. It's okay to romanticize it. It's fun. It's making it really fun to lean into right now. But it really was always right there for me. I could have tapped into that vibe and that mindset long, long before we moved. So I want you to know that you can wipe your slate clean anytime you need to or you want to. You don't have to go 2,000 miles to get it. But it is one of the perks of making the trip. So here we fucking go. I'm so excited to share with you everything that is developing and develops from this great adventure. And I cannot wait to see how it shapes that witch next door. One thing is for absolute certain. I have never, ever before felt closer to my magic. I cannot wait to see what it brings. So thank you for listening to this episode, for caring about my story and my journey. And I hope that pieces of it or nuggets from it help you feel normal, or like you can relate to somebody, or maybe help bring some clarity and tangibleness, some reality to your dreams and vision for yourself, because you can do it. It's been a really, really, really hard couple of years, and I'm so glad that we decided to do it. And I'm so fucking proud of us for not giving up, even when it would have been a lot easier to. And thank you, not just for listening, but supporting. You have no idea how big of a difference it makes having an army of a neighborhood behind you, supporting you like this. I want you to remember that this big community that we're forming, that we're all a part of, we have each other's backs. It's not just my back that's being supported. We've got each other. Sit in that for a moment. You really, really do have that community. So I can't wait. I'm so excited. It feels really good to just get on the mic finally. The first couple weeks we were here, it was just hard, which makes sense. Again, we were stripped down to the bone once we got here. So I'm glad I let myself just focus on myself and my family and rebuilding one day at a time. And now it feels really good to be reconnecting more and more and more and more with the neighborhood, putting out more and more content. My team and I have been sharing so many exciting ideas. Oh, I cannot wait. If you've made it this far, I'll give you a couple of special announcements since you listened to the very end of the episode. Merch really is coming. There's a couple of kinks that we're working out. Technically you could go purchase right now, but t-shirt is out of stock and we are figuring that out right now. So stand by for a little bit of technical difficulties. I did used to sell retail, but I have never done print on demand products before. This is like a totally new wheelhouse is doing print on demand merch like this, but it is turning out beautifully. Students in that witch school got a little bit of an early announcement and early release, and some of my students bought some merch already, and it is gorgeous. So I will do a big, like, fun, fancy launch with everything for the entire neighborhood. I'll put out in the email, all that good stuff in probably a week or two, very likely by next week. But I figured if you made it to the end of this very personal, heart-centered episode, you deserved a little treat. So merch really is ready. We're just figuring out a new t-shirt brand, basically, with the shipping fulfillers. So that we can get t-shirts up. But there's some other super fun items up there if you do want to go check those out. Remember that at the end of every month, now that merch is launched, we are going to be donating 5% of merch sales at the end of every month to a charity, nonprofit, some type of organization that I either find or that has been nominated by the neighborhood and I approve, just to make sure it aligns with all of our values and everything like that here in the neighborhood. If you are curious about what those values are, I really encourage you to hop over to my website and read my about page and my community page, where I spell all of those lovely things out for you. You can also submit your nomination for a charity or an organization. If you go to thatwitchnextdoor.com/conjurethatwitch, you can fill out the form and submit your favorite organization or nonprofit or charity that you think deserves the extra love and support from our neighborhood here. And then final little piece of to do here, little laundry list here, is I have opened up applications for small business advertising on That Witch podcast. So I brought this up very briefly a few episodes ago, and I wanted to wait to bring it up again more officially until after I moved so that I'd actually be able to respond to applications. But you can also go to thatwitchnextdoor.com/conjurethatwitch. On there, you can just select the reason for your message, whether it's a charity organization, working together, submitting for advertising, and fill out some brief information about yourself and your business, and I will contact you with pricing, rates, information, all that good stuff. And yeah, let's help some badass neighborhoods. Sorry, let's help some badass businesses in our neighborhood. Yeah, because guess what? It's really, really, really hard for small business to afford advertising. So I'm super excited to be offering this. Don't hesitate to reach out, no matter what your budget is. You might be surprised by what a steal the rates are. So if you've got a small business that you think that people in our neighborhood would benefit from or want to support or purchase from, submit it to me, my friends. Thank you again for your time today and every single day. You're so important to me. I hope that you know that. I'm so excited to be here, showing up for all of you again. We have some exciting things coming to the neighborhood, coming to that witch school in the coming months. Oh, feels so good to finally be over here and not have to be saying, oh, I'll do that once we move. I'll do that once we move. We moved! And now there's all these exciting things we get to do. I'm so excited. Okay, can you tell? Excited. All right. Thanks for being here. You're amazing. You're wonderful. Stay safe. Make sure you have some fun this week. And my friend, stay magical out there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed That Witch podcast today, I would be super, super grateful if you would take a moment to head over to Apple or Spotify and leave a rating and review. It really helps to support the show. Or if you just have a friend that you think would enjoy what we're doing, what we're talking about here, you can just share the show with them as well. Now, if you yourself like what you're doing here and you want to get more into the magic of the neighborhood, I highly recommend checking out my monthly membership, That Witch School. It's kind of like a witchier, more interactive style of Patreon subscription where you can enroll at a tier level that fits your lifestyle and budget. You can get instant access to all of the bonus content that we've already done, as well as all of the future amazing to come bonus content that we'll be doing in the future together. There's exercises for strengthening your intuition. There are loads of resources for studying astrology and learning your birth chart. We've got guest workshops, bonus episodes, exclusive discounts, and so much more. My full-time students also get exclusive access to Mighty Networks, our private online community platform, which is basically like a way better and way more magical social media platform with a bunch of really cool people like you that just want to learn from and support one another on this witchy spiritual journey. If this sounds like something that you would really enjoy, head over to thatwitchnextdoor.com/enroll and explore the tier level of That Witch School that would fit you today. Now, if you have any questions after the episode today, any inquiries, show suggestions, anything you'd like to share with me, you can head over to thatwitchnextdoor.com/conjurethatwitch. Remember, I'm just always right next door. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next episode.